when I studied with George Sacolario, one of the things he taught me early on, he said, look, if you want to be successful in guitar, never say no. I know, it's crazy.
Come up to a gig or a concert.
Gig, concerts, teaching, will you do this? Just, oh yeah, okay, yeah. And so, and I followed that, it was sort of in my brain, but one of the things that, now that I'm retired, or semi-retired, because I'm still teaching at State, is I'm getting very comfortable saying no for the first time in my life.
What are you doing here?
Right. So there's that, and then I have some projects I'm doing. But probably the biggest change, and this is really profound. I play guitar now as much as preparing for like this or a performance or maybe my own recordings. Is I play more for my own appreciation and my own musical satisfaction. Yeah. And at first it was kind of new, and it was kind of difficult because I'm always, oh God, I gotta play this in 3 months or something for such and such, and I want to do a new piece or something. So I had to kind of divorce myself from that, and just play it for my own musical experience, but which has been good.
You know, 4 years ago when you had your retirement concert at the SF Conservatory, and when David Tannenbaum had called me and asked me to write a piece for you,
yeah,
you know, the Reverence, and it was really kind of like, I was happy for you that you were, you know, some sense, you know, moving on as everybody does at some point, but at the same time it kind of made me a little bit sad because the time I think I spent there with you, you know, it just seems like somehow these ideas or these memories diminish, you know, little by little, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I always still fondly look back at those lessons and contemplate the meaning of them, and you know, to this day, and I think when I'm teaching classes and so on, I like to try to bring that openness that you always.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was a really special night, and you know, when you spoke about our relationship and our lessons, not only the words you said, but the way you delivered them was really, you know, heartfelt and very moving. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I never forget when I first walked into your studio to learn from you, I thought there was this space I could feel as soon as I walked into the door. Any other time I had a lesson from any other faculty member at the time, was total intimidation and just fear, you know, for my life. And when I walk in there, you create this space, and you're like, come on in, and you know, what are you working on? I said, I'm working on this John Dolan fantasy, right? You know, right. And then so I played the whole thing. And I thought afterwards, oh, Larry, he's probably gonna like, you know, think I'm the worst player in the world.
No.
And then you're like, no, very nice, you know, a lot of nice ideas. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I played the opening phrase. I never forget that. And I played. He says, "But how do you think it should really go, like musically speaking? You know, and which note is more important?" I was like, "Huh." But I started thinking about it. I says, "Is that it?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he said, "Okay, play it again." And then you connect that idea to the next idea, and it was like totally amazing. And I went home feeling so inspired. But then when I came back to the next lesson, I thought, "Huh." There's nothing he'll be able to say about the way I played this piece. I got it down. And you're like, "Wow, sounds really improved." But what about these inner voices here? I'm like, oh yeah, what about those inner voices? And then I thought, oh wow, this is incredible. So you kind of reveal like this whole nother layer or tier of understanding. I thought, okay, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna get these ideas down, and I come back, he's gonna have nothing to say. I come back, you're like, much improved. And he said, what about that bass line? And at that moment, I totally surrendered my ego and everything to you. I'm like, all right, he knows a lot more. I don't know anything, but I'm loving this.
How did you find such a passion for teaching? I mean, in other words, what was there some particular student or a particular job that you had or an assignment? I'm just curious.
It's actually funny because before I was ever at the conservatory, I would often teach a lot of my friends, you know, because I was kind of an electric guitar whiz, right? So I found it very interesting to figure out how to put this information, you know, inside their brains. Essentially, how do you relate this
Yeah.
you know? But then, you know, at some point, it made me realize that it was really more about a tradition, essentially, the making of music as a tradition that it's a responsibility for myself to pass along to the next generation or so, right? Because without that, then the art form dies slowly. So that, I think for me, that's what it kind of means now, is to really keep teaching so that music is learned in the right way, understood in the correct way.
Yeah.
And it continues on to the next generation, because it wouldn't take very long for it to all dwindle away.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like it's inspired by some higher power or something.
Yeah.
The way you said that.
Yeah, I think so in some ways.
Yeah, yeah.
And finally, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with your teacher, George Sacalario? I know who's still alive and still performing.
Yeah,
It's pretty incredible. You studied with him at?
I studied with him. It started at Sonoma. He was the teacher there, and I studied with him. He came every other week because he was living in San Rafael. It was just a long, and we had our lessons. So But it was really good. His standard was so high, and he played so well. So I kind of felt like it was necessary to rise to that level of playing. And in those days, there weren't a lot of great players. And we didn't have YouTube, and we didn't have computers, and so the standard was high, but it was attainable. And it was also there was room for everyone in those days. So it was fairly new. I think it branched out in the mid '60s, and I started with George in '71. So and he took the master class from Segovia in '65, and so it wasn't that long, But the thing that really inspired me was the day that he said, "I want you to come to the conservatory. I want you to audition. Don't waste your time here." I'm going, huh? Because I used to drive by the conservatory and go, the palace of the gods or something. So that was like breathtakingly transformational for me. So I took his advice, and then there was a set of there was the Ponce Theme Variations and the Bach Gavotte from the Fourth Flute Suite that I prepared for my audition, because I wanted to go in as a junior. There were some classes I still needed to take, but I got all because I was at Sonoma for about 2 years. It was the end of the second year, so I was able to transfer as a junior. But right before the audition, I played those pieces every lesson. I said, okay, play the Gavotte. Okay, let's hear the Ponce. And so it was every lesson, the same thing over. And so what I kind of, gained from that and benefited as a guitarist is that if you stay with something long enough, it'll become reliable in a performance. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing George Zacalario play on TV actually in the late '80s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was some
PBS.
program. Yeah, and I was just really inspired by his playing.
I know. It's so
look
effortless.
at his nails and these things. It was just kind of like he played the Gilbert.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember that. And all of a sudden one day he vanished, right?
Oh yeah, he did 20 years on the cruises.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
I took an Alaska cruise on Princess, and George wasn't on it, but all the help and all the other musicians knew him because he was on that cruise line. But anyway.